Well, thank you for the welcome. Thank you, Dr. Torkey. It is truly my honor to be able to be here to talk with all of you today. So I wanted to just speak about a few things, and happy to take questions from any of you about your own perspectives. There's no question I won't answer. So let me just tell you a little bit about my university and myself for a moment, and then specifically about legal education in Saudi Arabia and the United States and how those fit. First, as to myself, I am Mark Alexander. I am the dean at Villanova University. This law school is officially called the Charles Whittier School of Law. I've been a professor since 1996. It's a long time. I studied my bachelor's degree, my undergraduate degree from Yale, and then I did my 3-year JD also at Yale University. After that, I actually practiced. I clerked for a federal judge, and then I practiced at a law firm, Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, which actually I understand has recently opened a new office here in Riyadh. So I did that, and then I joined the faculty at Seton Hall University. I loved being there. It's a great university near New York City in New Jersey, and I taught there for about 20 years, and I was part of the law school administration. My field in particular is American constitutional law. And so I write in that field, I teach in that field. I'm actually excited. I have a new book coming out, inshallah. It's going to be in our hands very soon. They said actually on Monday they were sending it to the printing press. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll see it soon. So I try to stay active, but my last 8 years I've been the dean at Villanova University in the law school. Villanova University itself was founded in 1842. So it's an old university in the United States. It's near Philadelphia on the East Coast. It's just outside of Philadelphia. To orient it geographically, it's also about 2.5 hours drive from Washington, D.C., about 2 hours drive from New York City, right outside of Philadelphia, all on the eastern coast of the United States. The university itself has about 10,000 students total. Most of them are undergraduate college students in a 4-year bachelor's degree program. About 7,500, 8,000 students do that. We have a College of Arts and Sciences, College of Nursing, College of Professional Studies, School of Engineering. I mentioned business. So we've got those colleges, and those are offering undergraduate degrees and also some graduate degrees. The law school, where I am the dean, was founded in 1953, about 70 years ago, and we offer a 3-year JD. So just to give you background on it, in the United States system, you study your undergraduate 4-year degree, your college degree, and then 3 years after that for your Juris Doctor, for your JD. So it is unlike here, unlike, frankly, most countries in the world where law is an undergraduate study. For us, it's 4 years of undergrad plus 3 years, so it's 7 years to get your law degree. So we offer the JD program, and we have about 550 students divided over 3 years, so about 180 in each class for a 3-year program resulting in the JD. So that's the nature of the program. We also have, in addition to our courses, and the way it works traditionally is in your first year, you have the core courses of things like contract law, torts, property, constitutional law, my favorite, and others, and then you do more specialized courses as each semester goes forward. What we also require of our students is we require a certain amount of experiential learning by doing. And that's a situation where students work, and they work for a law firm, they work for a judge, they can work in different settings where that experience, working two to 3 days per week, they are supervised by an attorney in the workplace, but also then there's a professor who supervises the overall program, so they get credit for that study as well. It's required of us. Related to that, we also have a very robust clinical program. And the clinics are basically our own law firm within the law school. It's physically located inside the law school. So we have 8 different clinics. And the clinics, basically you have a professor working side by side with the students, but the students are actually representing clients. It's actual representation of clients in a wide variety of matters. In civil matters, in criminal matters, immigration matters, tax, health law, and so it's across a wide variety of fields. So the students learn by doing again. And in that context, again, it's within our own law firm. So that's to say we have that, and that's typically, students will do that for like one semester. On top of that, we also have centers of excellence where we take on academic study, research on important fields. Ethics, sports law. We take on particular fields. There's, let's see, ethics, sports law. We also actually do in health law, but it's kind of a place where we get to do like advanced research, where the student gets to take on certain topics. We do annual symposiums, panels, conferences to dive into subjects more deeply. So that's the nature of the school in terms of there's the traditional courses, the clinics, the centers of excellence, and all of it is in a community that I'm very, very proud of. Very proud to be part of our community. Villanova University itself is a Catholic school. It was founded by the Augustinians, an order of the Catholic faith. We always talk about our roots in faith. And what to me has always been important is that we're not training people to be Catholics. This isn't a seminary, but we're talking about values. And what I always tell my students, because I have Catholic students, I have Buddhist students, I have Muslim students, I have Jewish students, I have students from all different faith backgrounds, but I say we need to talk about our values. And I say a legal education without values at the core is meaningless. We have to talk about values. And we think about the things that we believe in, the things that are important to us, and those are our values. And we may read something in the Quran, we may read it in the Bible, we may hear something from our mother, we may hear something from our best friends, but it's about how do we live our lives, how do we treat each other. And so we always ask people to think about how do we treat each other, how do we live our values out as well as possible. How can we be not just well educated in the books, but how can we really live a meaningful life? And that translates into how we are as a community. And I tell students every day, I tell faculty, staff, students every day that we treat each other a certain way. We expect to treat each other a certain way, with respect, with dignity, with love for each other as brothers and sisters. So we may have problems sometimes. We may have disagreements. And I know that certainly in my country, we have trouble sometimes. We are disagreeing, and we're actually, I think we're very challenged as American society. We're very stressed right now. We're pulling apart. But in my corner of the world, at Villanova University, in the law school, I say, let's look at each other and treat each other as brothers and sisters, and look someone in the eye and say, I love you like my brother. I love you like my sister, and I don't agree with you today. But you know what? We're still going to break bread tonight and be family. That's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. People, and I got to say, I live in the United States. I don't live here. I don't live in Italy. I don't live other countries where anyone, I don't know where else everyone is from. But I know in my country, it's a big challenge. But I also know that it's something that matters to us in every country, is to find a way to treat each other. And particularly for me, training lawyers, we are in the position where we're always talking about how to resolve problems, how to solve people's problems. And so finding a way to do it by starting from a starting point where we can say, we're going to agree and disagree sometimes, but we're always going to treat each other a certain way. To me, that's always going to matter. So what I hope is in that context, we've created a community that really is a special community. It is a place where all are welcome. It's a place where all are welcome, and frankly, not just welcome, but all are expected to contribute. Because you can do so in any way you want, because we all are going to treat each other with respect. Say what you want. Do what you want with respect, dignity. And that's how you'll be treated in return. And that's, to me, the nature of Villanova University, and very much for me, the nature of the law school. So that's a little bit about me, about the university and the law school. And let me just talk about LLM for a minute as well. Now, previously I was talking about the typical path for the American system of 4 years of college, 3 years for the JD, being different from so many other countries in the world. And one of the ways in which you can, in effect, bridge between the traditions here or again in England, South Africa, what you pick the country, the undergrad, the 4 years, one thing you certainly can do is you can apply to an American law school and you can go for a 3-year JD, but to get the American legal training and advance your own skill set and knowledge base, an LLM is a very good option. And what it does is that it gives somebody an opportunity to come from another country to the United States and to spend 1 year training, starting out with fundamental things like just basics of research and writing in the American legal system, but then talking about advanced subjects like international arbitration, international business transactions, comparative law, comparative constitutional law. It's a great course, I love it. Subjects which tie the study with the type of need for taking the LLM. Because what happens is that you, over the course of the year, you learn things that ultimately make you more successful and you can make a bigger contribution in your life as an attorney. So that when you go to apply for a position at a firm like a Latham & Watkins or my firm, Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, here you've got a greater base of knowledge and the credential on the resume that the top firms all want to see. They all want to see that because it's valuable. Let's say you're working on a transaction, a Saudi bank and an American bank. You're talking to an American lawyer on this side. If you want to understand what's happening, you want to be most valuable to your client, you need to understand what this person is saying, what they're doing. A year LLM gives you that foundation and puts you at a place where you can most effectively represent your client. Now, by the way, this is a program that's open for people from, all the continents. So it may be that it's a French bank and an American bank. It could be a South African bank and an American bank. But the idea is that in the complex, the multinational world we're in, with so many things, frankly, that are part of the international transactions that often end up with and through American jurisdictions, having that knowledge base and that credential from the United States can make a big difference in your career. And you can ask my friends here who arranged this even, Safa and Salman from Latham & Watkins, when they are looking to hire, they're looking down, they're saying, oh, well, where's that CV? Where on that CV is that degree? And they say, oh, there's the LLM, top of the pile. They look at the CV and it doesn't, and it's because it actually provides greater skills and knowledge. In addition, when you get an LLM, you can also you can study for the bar and get an American license to practice, if that's what your choice would be, which would open up, of course, other markets. And I will tell you, in the American legal markets, if you have a degree from Saudi Arabia, for example, and the United States, and the ability to practice in the United States, that makes you just a very special commodity, so to speak, a very special talent in the world of legal practice. Very much so. So studying for the LLM provides you with an additional leg up, and not just a small thing, but it's a huge difference that I think you can very much benefit from. And that's why actually we're going to be offering the program, because we know that there's a very large number of people who benefit from it. And for me, frankly, I'm very excited to be here, to be able to open some inroads between Villanova and Saudi Arabia, to be able to talk to folks in this region of the world as well. I was actually in Dubai earlier this week to try and open up markets, because certainly in the United States, when we talk about internationalism and study abroad, it's often people talking about England, France, Italy, very European-centric. I'm thinking about how do we connect with parts of the world where my country certainly has not always connected. And that's why I'm very proud to be here, to be able to talk to folks about how do we open the connections between the Middle East and the United States. I mentioned before I was in Cape Town, trying to open inroads between Cape Town, South Africa, the African continent, and the United States. So I think we have great opportunity to really to offer a lot to students, and to offer a lot for us as a university and for the students who come for the degree. And then the selfish part, I will admit, for it also is when you come for the International LLM at Villanova, you sit in the class with the JD students, right? So you don't, there's typically be one class that would be just LLM, but then all the rest, it's all integrated within. And so what I'm selfish about, I think I'll provide a great education, but it's selfish because that means that my students currently at Villanova learn from you and have that perspective. So as much as we can learn from each other with different perspectives. I told you I went to university in the United States. I would love to have the chance to sit in a room and learn from somebody who went to university here. I had the good fortune to be a Fulbright scholar in Spain for a year, where I taught at a university. Every day I learned from my students and from my faculty colleagues. Right? I taught them about American constitutional law, but I learned every day. So truly it's an exchange. And that is possible by the virtue of having individuals from different countries, different cultures, different traditions, different educational paths together in the same room. And again, in the same room where we're treating each other as brothers and sisters, with respect, with dignity. That's how we all can learn. And so I think that the Villanova experience is unique in that regard, but I would say that if you are considering an LLM, even if we're not considering Villanova, I think it's a great opportunity to further your own knowledge and your own career opportunities. So with that, I think I've probably said enough, and I'm happy to take questions, but I just want to say thanks to all of you for the time. So thank you very much for your time today.
So,
yes.
Doctor, we'll be expecting some questions from
yes,
everybody.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to take the cue, or if
you can even have the questions answered from a practical perspective. Mr. Salman Asteri, equity partner with Latham & Watkins, is one of those who are key players in the legal field in this country, and at the same time you have someone who's an academic and practitioner at the same time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any questions?
Yes.
I have two questions. So when you mentioned that our experience, if we were to join...
A little bit louder, please.
If we were to enroll in,
yes.
In the United States, in your university specifically, it would be like a different special experience, since we have our law degree as a bachelor's degree
Yes.
We're going to take the LLM. But then will we like be together with the people who are taking the JD program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And then I have another question about the clinics you mentioned.
Yes.
So you have clinics in the university,
Mhm.
and the students do all the cases.
Yes. So with the clinics,
Be open for the LLM students as well. That's what I would.
yeah. You know, we've not had that question before. I think we could probably do that. I think I would say the challenge to me with doing that is that the clinic is a very large number of credit hours. So when you take a clinic, you don't have the time to do as many other classroom courses. So I think my answer is that that's fine, but you probably wouldn't be able to complete enough of the other credits you need. So let's say we think you should take, you know, some international commercial arbitration, comparative law, international business transactions in the second semester, and you want to do the clinic. Those courses plus clinic, you would never sleep. So I guess the answer could be maybe you stay another semester, but I think practically it would be impossible to do the courses and the clinic at the same time. But you know, I think if that was an interest, you know, this is actually a really great question. Because for instance, we have one clinic on law and entrepreneurship, and we work with businesses and we help them incorporate. That would be great. You know, and it's a small level, but it's a great way to start. So that would be something where I think that might be a good opportunity, for example, as a transition, and to be able to say, oh, I did this kind of work helping somebody incorporate in the United States. Well, that's good experience. So I wonder, I think, like I said, I think the challenge is there's not enough time in the day. And you must, you know, there are certain courses we need you to take because from my perspective, we need to send you out saying to somebody that you have done study of subjects that are going to make you able to, you know, really understand some of the key things. And again, just the differences that we would have, because there'd be a fundamental course that would just talk about some of the differences in contract law and tort law and property law and constitutional law across all nations. So it wouldn't be only Saudi or only French or only Italian, but that would be sort of an overall perspective. So once we get through some of the first part, I would want you to have time to do the rest. But I don't know, I'll think about how we can make that happen. And maybe it's just, again, I don't know about another semester, but could be.
I don't speak for everyone when I say this, but I think like if I were to be an LLM student, it would be worth the extra hours to like practice and get experience before like we get into it.
Right. Well, and there may be a way to be on a reduced load with, because normally most of the clinics, the students, what they do is they have the professor and two students who are paired up. And then this one student will be in the lead on one case, another student will be on the lead on another case, but they're always working together. So maybe adding a third person in, but then that means that they've got two cases. Maybe it's being a third person on one case, I don't know. Maybe we'll look into that.
Would the answer be different if someone came from England and, you know, the same thing in the US?
No, I mean, I think
from
for
a common law country.
right. No, I think for us it's just simply that the LLM program is designed to run through a certain course of study, and we just need to get through those courses. It's possible. And the other thing is, you know, my great joy is I just think of what's possible. So I think we try to figure out if it's possible if you came from another country. But I think it's really just we're working on trying to get through probably 24, maybe 30 credit hours. And if the clinic is going to be, let's say, typically like 8 credit hours, that's in one semester. So if you're doing like 12 to 15 and 8 of them are clinic, that's fine if you've got 3 years of the JD, which is how it works now. So I think, but there may be a way to do it.
All right. I'm asking a question.
Yes.
Can the JD be more or less than 3 years?
Ha.
Depending, 2 years.
Yeah. So there's been I would say about 10 years ago there was a lot of chatter in the United States about making JDs 2 years, and let's say a lot of us for a number of years said you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, you need this much time, and some folks were doing it, and I think frankly I didn't trust some of their motives. Like you are asking me an honest question. You're running a school, I'm running a school. I think some were trying to cut corners in certain ways, trying to find gimmicks. The reality is that American law school education takes 3 years. If you want to do it right, I'd be happy if I could take my students and just, I don't need them to be there for 3. 3 is not a magic number. It's not like 2 or 4 would be the same. It takes us the first year of core courses, another semester of a lot of semi-required courses, and then to get that experiential learning we've talked about, and then specialties, it really does take that much time.
The reason why I'm asking this question is that the core subjects are based on English law, towards contracts, criminal law, land law, all based on English law. So can the JD be less than 3 years?
Well, that's an interesting question. That would be a different question, right? So I think for
be exempted from at least some of them, not all
right.
of them.
For a student perhaps like Salman or myself who went to an American university for undergraduate who did not study law that way, we need the 3 years. I mean, you're a great student, but you just need the 3 years. I think that would be a different program, which I'll look into that option of whether for people who have done that study of law, whether the JD could be completed in 2 years. I think that the trick is simply thinking about what transitions and what doesn't.
Okay.
Because somebody who studies a 4-year bachelor's in law is in a different position. I studied, of all things, architecture in college.
But you'd be the best to hear construction disputes, I guess.
I could hear construction disputes, exactly. So I think, but that is an interesting question about whether somebody who has done a Bachelor of Laws would be able to accelerate through. It's possible, sure.
Some English graduates do the affiliated LLB for 2 years instead of the usual 3. Went to New York and sat for the New York bar.
Right.
No issues.
Right.
So this is the reason why I'm doing it vice versa. Like to discuss.
Okay.
If I may, I think what Doctor's question is about the fact that the LLB here is based on the English as opposed to the German or the French.
Right.
And so the students get preferential treatment because it is
right. And I think that there's no doubt that, and as sort of my answer is that with that advanced study compared to an American college student who has not studied law in that depth, that would mean that somebody could start at an advantage. But still, it's not the same system, so it's hard to see how much farther that is. It's an advantage, but is it enough to take a full year off? I think it's possible. But I think that's a very interesting question, which would be interesting to be able to say, because getting the JD, quite honestly, having a JD is better than having an LLM in terms of your own credentials, knowledge, skills, etc. There's no doubt about it. But there's a big difference between 1 year and 3 years. No doubt about that. So maybe.
The other way we've seen it is
schools like Georgetown, for example, they
Yes.
do a 2-year LLM where it does include clinical studies. Right?
Right.
So that's another way of doing it, right, potentially, which is a 2-year LLM that includes more of the experiential.
Right.
As opposed to saying, we're going to take a JD but make it 2 years. I agree with you
Yeah.
completely. I think it's very, very difficult to truncate the JD because the reality is very, I don't want to say very little, but a lot of what you're learning in that program is very unique to that program, and it's hard to bring in something from outside and say, well, that covers what you've already done. So the first year, you are doing the core courses. It's about the 5 core courses
Right.
the entire year through. And those are foundational courses that I don't see how they can be replicated. That's just my opinion.
Right.
But I don't know if you have a view on that.
No, that makes sense. And also Georgetown, which has perhaps the best clinical program in the country, I understand why they might do that differently. But yeah, we could do that 2 years LLM. But again, I also,
For anyone who wants a
right,
clinical.
and part of it is I want to respect that people to go the commitment of time, money, energy across thousands of miles. That's a lot. It's a good thing, you know, but at the same time I know it's a lot. So I'm interested in having a 1 year, but at the same time I know that as you discuss it and sort of to your question, having that additional time to do clinical work would only enhance your education base. So maybe that.
Since like our 4 years here, we took all the core subjects we needed, and it's like always been like educational and the learning is
Mhm.
it's really like beneficial. But then when we're going and traveling to like excel our learning, we want to have like a more of an experiential learning
Mhm.
experience.
Right.
So the Georgetown thing is really nice. Like the fact that they do like a 2-year LLM, which really focuses more on experiential learning, and I think it would really excel in your university.
Yeah, I mean I like the idea, and this is definitely one of the things I'll take home with me. I'm sorry, I thought I saw. Was your hand up or?
Yeah, I just wanted to double check on, because I heard that the LLM in the United States is usually 2 years. So I just wanted to make sure if it's 1 year or 2, because in the UK it's usually 1 year.
It's
And then I
1
heard
year.
that-
It's 1 year. I mean, every school can do it differently. And now I'm thinking about a different program. I'm sorry, I didn't even get your name. What was your name?
My name?
Yes. Lulu?
Lulu Al-Sheikh.
So we're gonna have to name the program after you. But
I'd be happy to have.
there you go.
I'd be the
The
first
Lulu
professor.
program.
The Lulu program. So I think I think that's to me now a new opportunity to think about whether to do that. But the plan is I think every other school it's just 1 year. Just 1 year. I don't know.
Most of them are.
I don't. Right. It's the 24 credits.
Except
Yeah.
Harvard, I believe, my time, there were 18 credit hours. But
Okay.
again,
Because
we-
Harvard is special.
Yeah. Well, 18, whether that's
Yes.
special or not.
No, but 24, and I think the max that you even could do would be 30 if you took extra classes, but 24 in order to get that degree, and yeah, but 1 year, yeah. Yes, you had a question.
Yeah, I had a question. If our students were to do the LLM anywhere in the States, would it be eligible to sit the bar for all the states, some states?
No, each state has its own accreditation. Frankly, the best option is New York.
California.
I don't think California offers the JD for they offer. I mean the bar for LMs. I don't think. I'm not sure. The reason why actually I think New York is the best option is that when you talk about an LLM program, you're talking by definition. What we're talking about is an international program. If you really want to be most engaged with the practice, international practice in the United States, odds are you're going to be in New York at some point. California also would be, particularly depending on if you're looking to Asia, that would be huge. But without a doubt, the by far biggest market for lawyers in the country is New York. And so that's to me also an opportunity. I can imagine, and you two might be able to speak to it, that somebody with an LLM takes the New York bar, their opportunity then to work in the New York office of a firm, for instance, that has an office in Riyadh or elsewhere across the Middle East. I think that would be, I can imagine, you hire people.
The same, yeah. So for our folks, trainees, when they go to their LLMs, they would sit and do the New York bar, and then we would have them second in the New York office and not coming back to New York.
They could also do California.
Yeah, but to his point, we have not seen anyone in our office who went did an LLM in the US and sat for the California one.
No.
We have not had it.
We have not had anyone.
I
don't know what the requirements
Yeah,
are.
I do think there is a way to do the California bar. The California bar is also a 2-day bar, right? So it's longer and a lot.
Well, it's 3 days as opposed to 2. Yeah.
As opposed to 2 days.
Right.
So a lot of people kind of feel that it's maybe too much after.
I took it, and I tell you, it was.
It's harder.
Yeah, it's a harder bar.
It was so hard.
Yeah, it's a very difficult bar. So it's really
people
difficult.
did it.
New York is
Yes.
So I'm
usually
convinced that they
easiest
should do it.
to qualify for it, right? So to be able to do it.
Right.
And I think Pennsylvania is actually not necessarily that difficult, but the challenge with Pennsylvania is, unless you're practicing in Pennsylvania, it's less valuable.
And there's been a lot of changes in the bar in the United States in the last decade. There's something now called the Uniform Bar Examination, where everybody can take it, but still each state has its own individual requirements on top. So it used to be 50 states would write 50 different bar exams, and you take it. Now, most states, we're probably at 40 now of the 50. You take that test, but then still there's other requirements of different sorts. So that's making the discussion bar very, very different these days. But again, with the LLM, the New York is frankly, to me, the best path. It just opens up practical, because again, this is practical. It's not just here.
For Latin America as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that if you were to take, if you said what are the 3 most important bars to take if if a student of mine says I want to do international practice, I'd say take New York, number 1, 2, and 3, frankly. Or if you think you want to go to Latin America, take Florida. If you want to go to Asia, take California. That would be like 4 and 5, but still 1, 2, and 3 would be New York. Professore.
Yeah, just a question, as dean, do you see that your international students, do they face some specific challenge when they join for your program?
So
I don't know, how you do the admission, and besides the admission and so on, people usually with different background, maybe, don't know if they have any specific challenge.
Right, so the program, we are just launching this program now. And that's why I'm actually excited to talk to you about it. What we have been doing is learning from the experiences of other schools and what they have done. And I have a professor who is the director of our international programs, who has been looking at what all the other schools do so that we can hopefully avoid the mistakes that others have made. One of the things which I think is important is trying to make sure folks are well integrated into the entire community. And so I don't want to push my students off to the corner who come from other parts of the world. We are sort of building it right now, and we are going to be offering it. The experience we're still to see. So I think that that's to say I think I can answer your question when I have, in a few years, inshallah, when the program is really running well.
So we should start by handing our study plan. So you can consider us.
Yes.
And consider our graduates.
Absolutely.
Next year, God willing, when you plan any curriculum.
And
for professional purposes, hopefully.
Absolutely, and Dr. Torki has been telling me about the work in getting this program started, which is just so very exciting. All admiration that you've been able to do this, because I love being the dean at my law school. It's a fun job. It's a hard job. It's not for everybody. But I will say, to start a law school, I told you, 1953, so I got to inherit good and bad. But to start this program, it's wonderful, and I hopefully will have opportunities.
People who helped me start this program, Professor Raphael from Mary College, University of London, has been teaching there for 16 years. Dr. Cecilia Bitaya is from Lebanon, has been teaching in this country for at least 5 years. Dr. Federico, Dr. Prince, who just joined us last year, one of the students of Dr. Raphael. So, we started as a family. It's not just
good.
Not a one-man shop. We started this whole thing together.
Well, it's impressive, and I hope that the next step can be to come to Villanova, and I am open to advice for anybody as needed. Dr. Torki can always find me. I do think we have a very special place. I do think Villanova is wonderful, but also, for me, my great joy is that I'm, as a professor and as a dean, I'm just helping students on their path towards their dreams. It's really cool. To me, like, this is what you want to do with your life, and I get to help. It's really, really great. I'm so lucky. And so in that context, if I can ever be of help in any decision, let me know. I think we have another question too.
We have international students who are considering to qualify seriously overseas. It's not an option. They must do something either in the US or elsewhere.
Good.
Emily, do you have any questions?
I thought there was, oh, sorry. No, please, either way.
Serene.
Please. No, I think.
I'm sitting in Samlukshi. I'm a third-year student. Sitting in Samlukshi. I'm sorry. I have a question about qualifying or being a competitive, strong candidate for an LLM in the States. So I still have a few years before I start applying, and I want to know what your university or other universities in the state consider sets you apart from other students applying, whether that be in your CV or general work experience, skills, etc. So I wanted to hear what your perspective was as a dean.
Sure.
Of the United States.
Well, for us, I'll say I'll get to the LLM in 1 second, but with the JD, the typical American path is you take the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test, and you submit your undergraduate transcript. Then you also write essays. Why do I want to go to law school? Why do I want to go to Villanova Law? You get recommendations from professors, maybe a recommendation from somebody you work for. We look at that whole package. We're a very selective school. We admit about 20% of our students. That's actually, I always think about, people say, who's your admissions committee? And I say, actually, it's a rejection committee. 4 out of 5 don't make it. We're a top 50 nationally ranked school. We're very strong. And so the point is, we need to figure out, we've got all these great applicants. So what we need to know is, who are you? With the LLM, the key thing to me, what's going to be very important, is if you've studied law, then to find out from people who can speak to your study of the law, your professors, your deans, to say this is why somebody's qualified. We want to see on the transcript academic excellence. That's one other way. So it's like professors, deans who can say, Celine's a very good student. Grades, which will show that you've done it. Then you have to say, this is why I want to do it. Oh, and also you said if you're working, you've been working for a while, get a recommendation from who you're working for. And the way I always look at admissions, and this will be the same for JD as for LLM, is you need to tell a story. And you need to tell a story that's going to convince us that you should be here. Not that you're good enough, but that you should be here, that you should be part of the program. One example I like to use is if a student comes to me, and this happens all the time, that people will say, oh, well, you talk to my nephew, my son, my daughter, whatever, about law school. If somebody says to me they want to practice law in Montana. Now, Montana is a small state, sort of the western half of the United States. Small population state, huge amount of land. It's its own little, space to itself. If somebody says, I want to practice in Montana, I'll tell them, go to the University of Montana, because that's where you're going to meet all the people who are in Montana, because the reality is it's a very small, isolated community. Going to Villanova doesn't really fit. So what I think to myself is I always want to know, why do you want to go to law school? What do you hope to gain? And so the only way I can know that, or my admissions team, is if you tell the story. So think about that. What's the story you're telling? Why are you compelled? And the stories are great. I mean, of those who apply, sometimes somebody says, I knew when I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a lawyer because my parents told me about a lawyer who helped them out because they had an accident. I want to be a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer, and I learned from him about law. Or, whatever it is, there's stories that tell us why you want to be there. So that's, to me, what I think which should be the driving motivator. There is one in this row, and then going back to Lulu after.
Okay, so basically, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My question would be, since we have a few years ahead to finish with this degree, the bachelor here, my question would be, have you thought about making perhaps a program, like let's say a summer program of a month or two, so we could go and have an experience and have like an idea how is the environment at the Villanova University and an idea about the LLM courses before actually making that big decision?
I think it's a great idea. I think if that's an interest, so we don't, I mean, it's something where we can try to build that into the program. So now I have to name another program, the Emily program. But I think also, if that is an interest to you, then I think without a program, we can try to figure out how to make that happen, for you to come to see. And there may be, so for example, we have at the university, we have the College of Professional Studies. They do summer courses. They have a program specifically, a paralegal training program. So it involves some study of law and perhaps doing a couple of classes there, which would not be law school classes, because we don't have, in our law school, we don't run summer classes. So it may be, though, that's an opportunity to be part of the university, but then also you would be able to see the law school, and we could find ways to sort of show you what we do in that context. So you could maybe be there to be a student, but do some classes that would be about the law, but not necessarily in the law school, and then you get to know the university better. So that could be an option. But also, I think that's an interesting question, I guess I wonder whether there are enough people who would want to come, because the commitment just to sort of see, is it better to say I'm going to come for 2 or 3 months, or just to say I'm coming for a full year? Because that's a big commitment just even for the 2 or 3 months. But I would also say, again, for me, I always try and think about what works, what's possible. So I would say you should be in touch, and we'll try to figure out how to make it work. Was that your question too?
No, I was just adding to your point when you mentioned like the question of why we joined law school in the first place and why we want to further our knowledge and get like an LLM or a GD. I was just saying that for most of us, I think the people who live here our biggest motivator is how our country is changing now.
Yeah.
And I think with all the changes, like anything is possible, and all job opportunities are open at the moment.
Right. So
it's good for us to expand our knowledge and learn in any way possible.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you know, in the United States, there aren't many deans who look like me, and certainly not till recently. At Villanova, none. And I think there's a question of when you see the world and you say there's new opportunities, it's exciting. And I think here in Saudi Arabia, there is, Vision 2030. There's an idea for what is the future, which is very exciting. And I think it's opportunity. And so it's a chance for you to be the change that you see in the world. And now the doors are open in a new way. And this is a moment of excitement, I would think. And so, yeah, think about how do you want to be that change? And how do you want to be part of that change? I think it's really exciting. I think it's really exciting if we could be part of that. And opening opportunities and expanding opportunities for people, not just in the United States, but around the world.
Any more questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Really